Right, let me start with Nepal and tell our viewers here that Nepal now has a new Prime Minister. It's Sushila Karki. Nepal has turned a historic page. Eminent jurist, the one and only lady judge of the top court in Nepal. She's now taken over as the Prime Minister of Nepal. Maybe interim, but well, she has sworn in. Eminent jurist Sushila Karki has been sworn in as the country's interim Prime Minister, the first woman ever to hold the post. Her appointment comes after Gen Z-led protests that shook Nepal, toppling the KP Oli Sharma government and forcing Nepal's entrenched political order to step aside. The youth uprising, triggered by a ban on social media and fueled by years of anger over corruption, left more than 30 people dead and over 1,000 injured. Initially, names like Kathmandu Mayor Balendra Shah Balan and energy reformer Gulman Gaising were actually discussed. Gulman Gaising was seemingly looking like the man who would be taking over as the interim head, but it seems like Sushila finally has stepped forward after initially resisting. Now she's become the unanimous choice by the Gen Z. But after marathon talks, we understand the Gen Z leaders, President Ramchandra Podel and Nepal's top military brass, consensus formed around Karki. At 73, she is no stranger to breaking barriers. Karki was Nepal's first female Chief Justice, celebrated for her tough anti-corruption stand. Lawmakers once tried to impeach her, but she completed her term and became a symbol of integrity. Now, as Prime Minister, she says that her mission is simple. She wants to guide Nepal into fresh elections within 6 to 12 months and to restore stability after weeks of turmoil. Born in Biratnagar, educated in Nepal and in India, we hear. Karki's journey from lawyer to Chief Justice and now to the nation's top executive marks an extraordinary career for herself. Nepal's relentless young generation. Her rise is more than symbolic for them. It is their demand for clean politics finally finding a face. So Karki, in a way, is a face of a clean and fair Nepal that the Gen Z want to see for themselves. From chaos to consensus, Sushila Karki now leads Nepal into its next chapter. So it's huge. There's also controversy around Karki's husband, who he was, what he indulged in the past. We're going to try and get our panelists to give us a little sense of Sushila Karki's position now as the interim Prime Minister of Nepal. Is she fully eligible? Well, of course, India has a lot of interest in the neighboring country. The turmoil there does certainly affect the mood along the borders with us. Sachin Tumir Sina, the youth leader, Nepali Congress Party, live from Kathmandu, joining me. Thank you very much. We also have Abhishek Basinyat, economist and social activist, live from Kathmandu, and Sagun Sundar Lawati, leader, RPP, live from Kathmandu. Thank you, all of you. Let me start with Sachin. Your take, Sachin, with Sushila Karki taking over as the interim Prime Minister. First, there was Gai Singh's name. It almost was concluded yesterday. There was a lot of talk around who is Gai Singh, and that news actually grabbed global headlines, that Gai Singh was the one who was going to be taking over. And now there was a sudden change in decision with Gen Z deciding finally that Karki was a better choice for this. What do you think, and why do you think this change has happened? We're in fact waiting for some visuals of their swearing in to come, but we hear she's already sworn in. So you have a new Prime Minister, Sushila Karki.
Well, good evening to all your viewers. And yes, we've had this historic change, and in 5 days, we've an unprecedented political situation that we have here. You see, the older parties, including my party, were all on back foot, and there was a massive demand because of the massive protest by the Gen Z, and they demanded a few points, out of which their one demand was to actually have a new prime minister in Sushila Karki. And Kulman Gising was also very popular. He was also very popular, but the point is, initially Balin Shah supported him. Sushila Karki was, I think, trusted more because she has this ease and experience, and she also knows Nepal system better. I think that's also one reason. And talking from my party's perspective, I think The best thing for us is the constitution is somewhat put into holes, but I think it can still be stitched later. The immediate political confusion has now ended. And I wish this government under Sushila Karki delivers what it's supposed to. It's supposed to do an election in 6 months, and the older parties like us will go back to our people, will work hard, will invent ourselves and get ready for the election. For now, I wish them all the best.
Take Basinyat, a simple question. Gen Z, I would presume, would want someone younger. At least that's what we thought, that Balen would be someone that they would, reckon with. They would relate to better than Karki. But it's a surprising choice by Gen Z. 73-year-old Karki, who has a clean record by and large, but not too sure of a husband. But nonetheless, Gen Z made that pick over Balen. What happened there? And what are Gen Z's demands here?
Thank you, Nabila. Namaste, everyone. I actually don't think the choice of Sushila Karki is a big surprise. In fact, I think she has been the favorite all along, Gen Z's favorite all along. And the main reason for that is Sushila Karki has been a campaigner, anti-corruption campaigner and good governance campaigner, even, I believe throughout her career, but particularly while she was the Chief Justice. I think she did take some very strong decisions against corruption. And if I'm not mistaken, I think she was even um, booted out of office for these reasons. So she has that record. So Gen Z's clear favorite all along was Sushila Karki. Balen kind of stepped out early in the race, based on information available to me. Why, I'm not sure. But having said that, I it's not something I regret too much, because Balen, while he has proven to be a vigorous, mayor, has, he's also unpredictable and can be kind of autocratic. So for this moment, you would need someone with more maturity, more experience, who can bring different sides of Nepal together and pull together that way. So I'm not sure Balen would have been a great choice from that perspective. Gissing, I understand Gissing's name came up because at one point sometime yesterday, Sushila Karki, it seems, refused to
Yeah.
pick up on that offer to become PM.
Yes. Yeah.
And when she refused, that's when I think Gissing became the next favorite. And her reason for refusal, as I understand it, was that the president, Mr. Ramchandra Paudel, was stuck on some constitutional niceties. So the issue right now is, first of all, um, should we even dissolve parliament? Should we maintain this constitution, or should there be a new some kind of an interim constitution? How the process? How exactly do we go forward? And I believe the president was initially interested in maintaining the parliament as opposed to dissolving it. And also, I've heard, again, unverified news, social media kind of stuff, that the president wanted to limit Sushila Karki's ability to do anti-corruption investigations, right? So I believe it was for this reason she backed out and decided not to pick up on Gen Z's offer of becoming the interim PM. And for that reason, Gissing may have been pushed up. But it seems over last night.
My question, and of course a lot of us question, Sushila Karki's husband was involved in a plane hijacking case 52 years ago. Would you want to elaborate a little more and maybe give us a sense on what happened at that point? She had no.
Well,
ultimately, it was not her; it was her husband. But yet, does this cast a shadow?
Sorry.
Does it cast a shadow on her credibility?
Depends, I suppose, on which faction you are in Nepal. But it was a long time ago in the panchayat regime. That was the autocratic partyless system under the king, absolute rule of the king. So it seems he was part of Girija Prasad Koirala's group to fight against the monarchy. So that was a long time ago. I mean, we've moved on since then. 1990, we already had constitutional monarchy with a multi-party democracy. So I'm not sure to the current generation that's a big hang up. Some people who are, pro-monarchists may feel a little uncomfortable about Karki, Sushila Karki, because given her husband's participation, presumably Sushila Karki herself might also have more Republican sentiments, and some pro-monarchist right side may be a little bit uncomfortable about that. But having said that, I mean the big achievement right now is, through marathon negotiations, we do have an interim government, and the dilly dallying and the delay in announcing an interim government was making a lot of Nepalis very nervous and uncomfortable, right? Because there was some level of the old parties trying to reassert themselves, and for example, the demand for not dissolving parliament was worrying
Yeah.
to I think the revolutionaries as well as the general population, because that would have made it easier for the powers that be, the status quoists, if you like, powers to reassert themselves, right, and then kind of thwart the change or limit the extent of the transformation. Equally, there were also talks about this delay and power vacuum, being exploited by the rightists or pro-monarchists to kind of revive the monarchy. And then, of course, there was fear that international elements then could start playing all sorts of games to suit their interests, and in that game, Nepalese interests would, of course, get diluted. So been sworn in. I mean, it's difficult at times like this to satisfy all sides. There can't be
No,
possibly be a
I, my,
perfect
my,
candidate, but I think
my
we've got
worry
the
is
best of them.
that you just said that international elements could interfere. Maybe Sagun could give us. Sagun Sundar, would you want to comment on that? Has there been international elements interfering into Nepal protests? And why, may I ask, some of the Indian journalists have been assaulted. What is this anger towards Indian journalists?
I don't know exactly, but I sense sometimes there are facts are not properly reported, maybe, or maybe sometimes there is a efforts to report early on. Maybe I also saw those incidents in the social media. But apart from that, I think we have a historic moment now. We have the first woman prime minister, who also happened to be incidentally the first woman chief justice in Nepal. And as we hear, as per the reports, after the swearing in, there'll be a first meeting of the cabinet, and it's supposed to, scheduled to hold first hold its first cabinet meeting and recommend a dissolution of the House of Representatives, the Parliament, and also maybe as we hear, there'll be the cabinet will also decide on holding inquiry into large corruption cases, as well as the killings and atrocities that we witnessed during the agitation. And also, I think the cabinet or the new interim government will also announce a new date for polls. Those are the tasks, decision that the new cabinet would take. That's what is expected. And in a few days to come by, I believe, because that is one of the demands of the Gen Z protest, that they'll look forward to have a revision of the constitution, and maybe they'll devise some ways or a format to rewrite the constitution. One thing is clear after this change: the main hegemony of leaders like Sherbazu Deuba, Puspa Kamal Dal, and also KP Sharma Oli, who was the prime minister till a few days back.
Yeah.
They've been holding the leadership positions in the government and also in the parties, respective parties, since for over 35 years. And the prime minister's chair of the responsibility of the prime minister was actually divided, share among the three leaders. It was like a musical chair. And even the younger generation in their respective parties could not, aspire to take leadership
Correct.
roles leave the party. So I think that's broken down. I think so. We have a historic
So your
moment.
parliament has been
And
fully dissolved. Elections are going to happen when? Give us a little clarity on what next for you.
No. The cabinet, the interim cabinet will recommend. That's what, as per the reports, the first meeting will recommend dissolution of the parliament, and the president will endorse that. So that was the sticking point so far between how to take this forward. How to
So,
go
so
about the
now you're going
dissolution
to
of the
have an
parliament.
interim cabinet as well. Whatever that
Yes,
stood all this while has been dissolved.
yes,
Sachin, you want to
yes.
come in on that?
We'll have an interim cabinet, and we'll have the I think the elected local governments will continue, as well as the provincial government will continue, and I think we'll still continue to have the National Assembly of the upper house. But I
Okay.
think the House of Representatives, the lower house, will be dissolved.
Okay. If you can have
That was the
some
bonus. That was the
images of Sushila Karki. Sachin, if you can tell us, Sushila Karki is now the only one standing on the top of that interim pyramid. Tell us a little more on who's going to be aiding her, who's going to be this newly formed interim cabinet. Who are these people? Is it going to be part of the Gen Z? They're all 30 and below. The age group is very young. Would you believe that this, among the Gen Z itself, there's going to be people picked to form the interim cabinet as well?
Well, there are certain names floating. There are certain names floating, and few who have already been recognized in the Nepali society. If you see, there is a lot of talk of Om Prakash Aryal, who is a renowned lawyer himself, is an advocate. There have been talks of Ananda Sharma, former army man. He was also my teacher. There have been also talks of Kulman Gising joining in. So there are plenty. There are multiple talks going on. There are rumors. We don't know how true that are they are. So it's difficult to say from now. But Gen Z, I think, would certainly have somebody from their side as well. One thing I felt is after some time of this protest, the Gen Z leadership also realized that they lack that experience to run the government. Sudan Gurung was pretty vocal about it in his press conference. When he had a press conference yesterday, he said that, we thought of scrapping the constitution completely, but then we got to know of late that constitution is actually required in a country to hold it together. So that's the kind of understanding that Gen Z has, shown in the last few hours and days. What I think is Sushila Karki, I think is a good choice for us also, because Durga Subedi, her husband, whom you mentioned earlier, was involved in that plane hijack. But that
Yeah.
hijack is not taken as a sign of offense anymore. It's taken more as a, it's an example of pride in Nepal's democratic discourse. At least that was what was taught to us for a long, long time. And I think his autobiography is also named after that hijack. So I don't think that will matter to any of the Gen
You
Zs
look
or
at it as a
anybody else. But what
freedom struggle.
it is, yes. It's seen as freedom struggle against an authoritarian panchayat system led by the king of Nepal.
Okay.
It was King Birendra, I believe. So it's taken that way. And Sushila Kargi has come a long way after that. She also had a little experience of working with my party's students' wing. In her early days, she also worked with my party's greatest leader, BP Koirala. She has written that in her autobiography, how she was influenced by the great man. So, yeah, I think even for the establishment, Sushila Kargi was an easy name to understand, if the political establishment by which I meant. And let's see how things unfold. But for now, I think we are in decent hands.
Okay, well, congratulations. You have an interim prime minister. Sachin, would you tell us why Indian journalists are getting assaulted? I could have played those visuals out for you if you had it already. But what's this rage? After KP Sharma Oli has resigned, things are settled, but it seems like the anger on the streets is still alive. And Indian journalists are bearing the brunt for it.
First up, I'd like to apologize from my side. This should not happen to journalists of any country. So, there will be journalists that you agree with and disagree with. I mean, this is something that's going inside our country as well. This populist front that started discrediting the journalists, and that's the reason why so many big houses have been burned down in Nepal. I apologize from my country's side, representing Nepal, and see. I mean, there are multiple ideas that floats around. There is an
Yeah,
Indian
you have those visuals on
anti-Indian
our screens.
sentiment
We're
as
playing
well.
that out for our
Yes.
viewers. It's a Republic channel reporter who was assaulted, and we stand by the journalist in solidarity. That's not right. He shouldn't have been treated like that. So which is what I'm asking: this anger towards journalists in general, or Indian journalists. I just want clarity on that.
No, I mean they have problem with Nepali journalists as well, and
Okay.
if that's Republic TV, perhaps a little bit of
Yeah.
anger might also have been against Arnav Goswami, because the last time when we had a debate where we're discussing maps, I think our speakers were a little mistreated. That's what I feel. But anyways, I mean these things are very sad, and we apologize. It should not be in any case, and I hope sense prevails from tomorrow. I'm sorry. We apologize to all the Indian journalists.
All right.
Nabila, can I chime in on this?
Yeah, Abhishek, I was just about
So
coming to you.
I'm with Sachin. These kind of things, of course, shouldn't happen, and I apologize for something like this. But just something almost anecdotal, if you will. This reminded me of 10 years back during the big Nepali earthquake, and at that time too, there were a lot of journalists, particularly Indian journalists, who descended into Nepal, and they were so enthusiastic, I suppose, in doing their job, that they were really covering the earthquake with great fervor. But I think what sometimes journalists may miss is, in their interest in doing their duty, and they're carrying out their professional duty, they might forget that the people who are suffering are in a different emotional state. And that happened at the earthquake. People were suffering, and then you had journalists like really peeping into their homes and, how are you? I mean, people are dying, and it's like, what do you feel? How are you? Questions like this. And that really annoyed people. And there was a small movement saying, Indian journalists go back, something to that effect. So I think maybe this is also, a lack of understanding of the emotional
Yeah,
temperature,
sure
and people
enough.
in
When
Nepal are
emotions are
nervous.
running
We're
high,
scared.
anything can be a
And
trigger.
right, so not to
As
defend
Sachin
it, not to defend
apologized,
such
then
actions, but
I think it's my duty also from the journalist fraternity to apologize for jari reporting at times. Well, I agree that this could slip out of hand
that
when
could
you're
be, yeah.
excited and in whatever emotion running through a journalist on the ground. You never know what they say. They could be bearing the brunt for it. But yet, violence is not the answer for it. So condemning the violence at the same time. But Abhishek, a final word as we're looking at a new interim prime minister taking over. Sushila Karki is now there. You have an interim cabinet that you're going to be roping in. Who are these people? How, on what basis and grounds, parameters are you going to be selecting them? And there was demands for a constitution change. I'm just saying, drawing parallels to India, if at all there was anything like this, a constitution change in India is blasphemous in every sense, because constitution here is sacrosanct. Why is it not the same there in Nepal? Are you not proud of your constitution?
um, because the constitutional change was, well, I mean, there's a precedent for it. So back in what we call Jana Andolan 2006, when the previous revolution, when the monarchy was autocratic monarchy was removed, and this new kind of and the Maoists were mainstreamed. That is how that peace process went forward. So the previous constitution of 1990 was suspended, scrapped, and an interim constitution was put in place until the Constituent Assembly finally drafted the final constitution, which is the current constitution in 2015. So there is a precedent, and I think a new constitution would just ease things for the interim government to take forward its agenda, right? Whereas the old sticking with the old constitution led to all these questions, complications about, oh, well, then do we dissolve parliament or not, or who authorizes this, and who, blah blah blah. So I think the having the old constitution for procedural issues was complicated, and like I said, we have a precedent of having an interim constitution to mark a new beginning, so to speak. So I don't think that is a senseless demand. But the one thing I would like to also, I think, is worth noting through the last few days is I think we have to doff our hats to the Nepal army, who I think have played quite a unique role, unexpected of an army, because an army, you just think soldiers, you go to war and battle and blah blah blah. But the role they've had to play the past few days is, of course, contain the disturbances and the arsonists and looters and stuff, which they have managed to do. Good on them. But also to mediate at a time of intense nervousness and high emotions, and cobble together Gen Z, a young group, the old parties, the general
Yeah.
population,
You
the
know, just
pro-monarchist
Abhishek,
forces,
for the
and
moment,
then come
I'm
up with
going to alert our viewers that these are live images that we are playing of Sushila Karki taking over as the interim Prime Minister of Nepal. These were images that we were waiting for. She's already been sworn in, and here you have it. She's officially taken over as the Prime Minister of Nepal. Interim, yes, but well, she is the Prime Minister of a country that was torn apart by a civil unrest. And now you have some semblance. We're looking at, hopefully, law and order coming into play post this swearing in. So Nepal now finally looking at nerves calming down with a new Prime Minister being selected, and likely elections in Nepal could happen 6 months later, but not too sure how long that would take. But nonetheless, at least there is some head of government now. Abhishek and maybe Sagun Sundar, the visuals here, live visuals of Sushila Karki, who's just sworn in as the Prime Minister. Give us a little sense on who are the people who formulated this selection and oath taking. Who are the people that we see on our screens? Would you be able to identify them?
Bhattarai and the newly sworn in Prime Minister herself there. And we have the President, Vice President there, and Speaker. I think I saw him, Speaker of the House. And also members of the diplomatic corps, ambassadors. This is the Chinese ambassador in front of the Prime Minister right now, and advisor of the President and other officials. That's what I see so far. And also Chief of the Army Staff.
Okay, that's great. So this is in complete consensus with all stakeholders. Even though the parliament has been dissolved, there's no more KP Sharma Oli government that remains. You still have the vice president, the president, and the army chief who are facilitating this entire handover process.
It's very unconventional times for us.
Yeah.
And army, like Abhishek said, coordinating and facilitating the unconventional, unseen development so far. It's remarkable that we now have a new government, and we should be hopeful that there'll be a wide-scale investigation and efforts to wipe out corruption, which has been sort of an epidemic in our society. It's ingrained in the system, so we have to do away with that. That was one of the main demands of the Gen Z movement. Let's see how it goes. And of course, we can have probably, I don't know how will the government take this forward, interim government. I think it'll be some time before they officially decide on rewriting the constitution. If they do, I think we'll have a process forward. I think all sides of the society, the country, all views should be included. There were certain reservations against the past constitution, even the peace process for that matter. Our violent conflict was a tripartite in the sense the palace and the Maoist and the parliamentary forces were the three actors in the conflict, but one of the main key stakeholders, the palace or the monarchy as such, was left out in the peace process. I think there's a big concern on that, and if we take this forward, it'll be better for the country and the society and the peace for that matter, even for democracy, if we could have all sides, all opinions, all institutions included in the new polity or in new efforts to have a democratic setup in the country. Let's see how it goes. We are very hopeful. for a better future, corruption-free future for us.
I really hope to see some peace in Nepal. Huge number of Indian tourists who usually come into Nepal. Many of them were stranded, some of them attacked. So we're obviously worrying for our Indian citizens as well. And as a neighbor, we wish you well, right? Abhishek, a final word on the visuals you see there. You have a new Prime Minister who's just sworn in.
I think this is great to see. It's been a good few days of intense tension and uncertainty and not knowing which way things will go. So I think we've managed to come up with something that is reasonably acceptable to all sides. Hopefully it will hold together. Hopefully the cabinet will support Sushila Karki, and we will have a fresh mandate in time, which is 6 months max, I hope 1 year. The last constitution took us like upwards of 7 years, 7-8 years to draft a new, the final constitution. So I really hope we don't go that way. And just to pick up on what Mr. Sagun Lavati said, yes, I think now that we have this open moment, this chance to imagine our country, I think the mistakes from the past have to be corrected this time. And one of them probably was that the last peace process in 2006 failed to take into consideration, fail to include one of the power centers of the country, which was the monarchy, right? So back then, the peace process happened between the parties, the Maoists, and, well, I don't know who else, because it was the monarchy was the other side of that conflict, if you will, and they were not part of the peace deal. So hopefully we can now find a way for all Nepalese to come together and find ways to accept each other and live together in peace and harmony.
Fabulous. Sachin, as I'm really short on time, 30 seconds.
All right, so opposing the two gentlemen's view, I think there's no space for monarchy anymore, because we still have a president. So you can't have two head of states. And we formed this constitution through a constitutional assembly process. So I'm against it, and we have a big force against it. So I don't see there's a chance for it. But the other things, corruption free, everything. We are with the Gen Z community. And apart from that, I hope this constitution survives, and we have brighter days ahead.
Yeah, well, hope your wish comes true, and you stay on track and not go back to a monarchy. I'm not too sure if that was a better time. I don't have time, Sagun, but what do you have to say?
This exclusionary measures, actually, excluding certain views in the parliament or in the constitution was actually what failed us, I think. So we should be open for the people to decide, the process to decide.
All right. It's people's wish.
autocratic
Let's just hope it
monarchy.
doesn't come to this extreme, where people's wish is never heard, and then they come out on the streets like this, indulge in violence until someone hears them.
Nowhere was monarchy a demand anyways. So
Okay.
this discussion is
I didn't hear that either.
And those who are
There were
demanding
some
a
calls
monarchy
here and
is
there,
not
but not
autocratic
really.
monarchy. It's a constitutional monarchy.
Okay, all right. All right. Thank you very much.
Which is not
I
possible in
hope
Nepal.
whatever you
Anyways,
wish to
thank you.
comes into effect through a fair and free election process. All right. Thank you very much, and congratulations on your new Prime Minister.